My name is Deb Proos. I'm currently a dog volunteer at the Manhattan shelter. I also work for the Mayor's Alliance as a transport driver. From 2012 to 2014, I worked in the behavior department at the Manhattan shelter. So I know how the shelter works and how challenging an environment it is. I know the women of ACC, and I've always believed you're well-intentioned. But the disconnect between how you would like ACC to be perceived and the boots-on-the-ground reality of it continues to get in the way of meaningful change. Inasmuch as ACC is not a hospital, it's not a killing field, it's sometimes a place where dogs frolic happily in playgroup. More often, though, especially of late, it's a place where dogs and cats get really sick and deteriorate really fast. Once they land in ISO, instead of a sense of urgency kicking in, diligent monitoring, viable meds, daily walks, timely placement, emergency support to compensate for limited resources, it becomes a crapshoot as to what happens next. Most likely, extended hospital stays and exorbitant bills for rescue, return to the shelter for a public adopter who can't afford medical care of several $1,000s. Easy as ACC does not describe the current state of affairs where a live release statistic becomes a medical emergency. I'd like to give voice to, real quickly, to 3 Manhattan dogs whose trajectories to death in the past month have astounded me. Princess was a 3-year-old Chihuahua, 8 pounds. She arrived on May 22nd. She went from ISO to foster. Her health was not improving, so she came back to ACC to be monitored for kennel cough or pneumonia. She was monitored for 10 days before she was found dead on June 11th in the late afternoon in her cage in the medical department at the Manhattan shelter. Magoo was a blind geriatric Chihuahua, 20 pounds. She arrived on May 17th. Medical noted bright, alert, and responsive. When I picked her up for transport, 3 days later, she was swaddled in a blanket and unable to walk. She was euthanized at her foster's vet that afternoon, her lungs so full of fluid she couldn't breathe. Vanilla was a 40-year-old poodle mix, 15 pounds. She arrived on June 2nd. After being monitored in the medical department, she was moved to ISO on June 14th, where a volunteer found her shaking and unable to walk. She died of pneumonia 2 days later after finally being pulled by rescue. I just wonder if this is expected collateral damage or unprecedented. I think it's time for dialogue, not dismissal. Thanks.